this is Andy Lipton, and welcome to Leading the Break. Today, I continue my conversation with Steph Gaitley, the coach at Fairleigh Dickinson University's women's basketball team. Coach Gaitley is one of the most successful coaches in women's college basketball active today, with over 750 wins. We continued our conversation on the different aspects of human behavior that impact Coach Gaitley's success. Today, we talk about attitude. Let's talk about attitude. And, to some extent, that could be a subjective term, right? I feel that person's got an attitude. What does attitude mean to Steph Gaitley?
Well, my favorite quote is attitudes are contagious, is yours worth catching. So, like, are you somebody I want to be around every day? Because if you're not, it's not going to work. And that doesn't mean you have to be Susie Rah Rah. That just means you have to have an attentive attitude. You have to be focused. You have to go hard. You don't have to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. But as long as you respond to your mistakes in a positive way, as long as you go hard, as long as the body language is positive, then we're going to be fine. It doesn't take much to be successful in our program or to have a good relationship with the coaches in our program because all it takes is, I'm not going to coach your effort and I'm not going to coach your attitude. Those are things that you have to bring every day. If you're not, then you're not going to be here. It's just pretty much that simple. And I've had to have conversations with kids like that. Like, you either fix it, or I'm sorry, we're going to have to say goodbye. Because last year was a difficult year losing my sister. And I said, I tried to lead by example. If I brought it every single day, I didn't bring doom and gloom. I didn't bring my sadness. I kept that to myself. And I brought an energy every single day because I'm a professional. I'm your leader. So, of course, as kids, they're going to have down days. And I asked them to share that. Like, if you have a tough day the night before, just text me, say, Coach, I'm not feeling great, or Coach, my grandma's sick. I'm like, then I'll tell the staff, hey, just keep an eye on so and so. She's going through a tough time. They're all human. So we take the human aspect into it. Once you show me what you're capable of doing, I'm going to demand and expect that every day, unless there's a reason for not doing it. And then obviously, then that's a little bit different. But um, we're trying to prepare them for life after basketball. I mean, nobody wants to have somebody walk in the office late or walk in with an attitude. They don't want to be around that. You're not going to last long in that environment. So everything we're teaching is kind of just springboarding off what your parents have taught you and just the next step in getting you ready for the life after basketball.
Uh, in the recruiting process, I know you've talked about this to me in the past. Um, Character, attitude is very important. Can you give us some idea of how you kind of scope that out before, as you recruit somebody?
One of the biggest things I watch when a kid comes for a visit is how they treat their parents. Like if they cut their parents off and like, oh, their attitude, how they treat them when their parents might ask a question that they may think is silly, but it's a parent. They love their kids, right? Their kids walk on water. Every parent thinks their kids walk on water. So I just think how you treat your parents tells me a lot about you. If you don't have the respect for your parents, then you're certainly gonna have the respect for us. So that definitely comes into play. And I watch, little things of like, if you know, I love the kids that come and when you offer them a scholarship are so appreciative. Like, thank you so much. This means so much. Like, rather than the kids that take it for granted. I pick up on little flags, whether they be green or whether it be red flags. And that has a lot to do with, building the relationship and even on my phone calls now, because most of them obviously are phone calls. And, there's some kids that I look forward to calling all the time just because I love the interaction we have. And then I can't wait to meet them. And there's somebody that I feel a connection to be another part, to be a part of the program. And then also their social media speaks a lot of them. Like we research their social media and we tell my boys all the time, always be careful what you put on social media because they've had friends that have lost jobs because of what they posted. So it just that speaks volumes of who you are as well, and you have to be very aware of that because a lot of companies are doing that as well. So there's a lot of things that go into it. It's not first and foremost, I mean, obviously you have to be able to be somewhat talented, but the talent is only one piece of it. I mean, the core of the person, of the heart of the person, are they willing to do community service? Are they willing to give back? One of the things that always interests me is when I ask them, what's your favorite memory in basketball, right? And if they say their 1,000 point, it worries me. It worries me if they put that over the championship, or something they had success with the team. because it means that they're really tied into their individual accomplishments rather than the team accomplishments.
Gotcha. Um, so let me ask you a few more questions about it. You know, you're a coach, but you're a teacher, really. Um, and college kids, it's a period where they're growing, right? Um, and you talked about preparing kids, you know, for life after college. Um, so a kid comes, or you see a kid with a really good talent, but you can see there's a bit of an attitude. Um, but you know, oftentimes there are reasons for that attitude. There's something that's gone on in that kid's life that you have no idea about, really, and you're not even thinking about that. You're just seeing what's presented to you. Do you ever say to yourself, you know what? Part of my job is to develop that kid, and maybe to have that kid grow as a person. Is that too much to ask of a coach, um, given the demands on you to win, you know, to be successful? Do you have time to really nurture that in someone? Um,
That is a great question because I've changed my philosophy on that. I've always been one to do that, to say, I see some things, they're talented, but there's some things I'm not crazy about how they acted. And I'm like, that's okay. When I get them, we'll definitely work through them. But now I did when I was at when I was at Fordham and we won our first title, I was able to get involved, or we were able to get involved with better players, and I took a chance on some better players, and it was a handful. And I was like, I will not do that again. I would rather take the blue collar kid any day now over the kid that is showing the red flags. Because to me, the red flags have been there for 18 years of your life and they're pretty much not going to change. And there's different ones, like there's a difference. If those that need to be loved, I'm all in, because we'll give you all that love. But those that have an attitude of it's all about me and I want to get my way, they've done that for 18 years and it's going to be a hard thing to change, especially in the years now with the portal. You might have them for 1 year. Is it worth that 1 year of that? I don't think so. Like, so we've done well with the kids that are just so appreciative for the opportunities they have.
Gotcha. All right, last question. And I credit this to my younger daughter when she was like 12. Because I coached girls JV for a few years, and I didn't take two kids on the team who I thought had attitudes. Turned out they grew up to be really wonderful young women, you know. And I'm friends with I was friends with the parents now. I'm friends with the parents today. Um, but I knew it would have been worth the time, you know. And also I didn't have the experience to really understand what was driving their behavior back then. Um, but my younger daughter said, "Dad, you should have kept them. You would have done much better. You need a little attitude on the court." Uh, how about that trade-off? Kids who might have an attitude, but it actually works on the court, and it's the kind of player that the teammates like because you'd rather have that kind of player on your team. Um, how about that line?
It's a great question because we've had that. I mean, like, I call it the chip. They have a chip, and I need that chip to be one that we use in a positive way. Because it's somebody that it's a pain in the neck with you sometimes, but you don't want to play against because they have that chip. So my biggest thing is if I feel after being with you that the genuine heart of you is a good heart, I'll work with that chip. If I get to know you through the recruiting process or I get to know you as you come in as a player and you generally seem like a good kid that just is a little wayward and needs some direction, I'll take that on because I feel everybody needs that opportunity and that chance. And I think as long as the number one thing is you have a good heart and you're willing to be part of something bigger than yourself, then we're all in for that. So it's a great question because sometimes you go around in the younger part of my career saying, all right, she's a pain in the neck, but she's giving us a double double, right? Like is it worth it? But if it's somebody that's a pain in the neck and giving you nothing, it's not worth it. Like you got to get some type of trade-off in this situation. But in the perfect world, they give you both. But obviously it's not a perfect world. So you just have to give and take a little bit and just make sure that you're both willing to meet each other halfway. That's really important. That's why I do a lot of individual conversations with their players because I want them to know that, and this is where I've changed a lot of, I want to meet them halfway. I don't want it to be just my way but they also need to know that I'm the coach and I have the experience, so you got to just trust what I'm telling you is going to work as long as you give it a chance.
Gotcha. All right, that's great stuff. Really, great stuff. I know it's kind of doesn't show up in the stats, but probably really important stuff. You know.
Yeah, it's huge. I'm telling you that the foundation of having good chemistry, and you have to be careful because if the end of your bench is a little bit of a buzz, like a what do I want to say, a beehive, like you got some problems, you're in trouble. So you've got to make sure during the year you're checking in with everybody on your team. It's not just focusing on the players that are playing. You've got to make sure that you're caring about, for our case, 1 through 16, and telling them all the time, like, I'm here to help you in any way. You might not all play the same, but I'm going to love you all the same, and I'm going to do whatever I can for you. So that has to be constantly reminded to them to make them understand that everyone is equally important in our program.